Hey, this is Stephen Amell, and you are listening to Tomorrow's Legends, the podcast. Don't fail your city.
In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this Wonder Twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as Tomorrow's Legends.
Montiacale verbosa fermante!
What the heck? I thought I heard John casting a spell. And it's you, Flash. What are you doing?
Well, with John gone, someone has to take up the dark arts, and I just figured maybe I can cast spells at my speed.
Oh man, without Harley to keep you in check, you're a whirlwind looking for disaster.
And now, here are your hosts, the Scarlet Speedster himself, the Flash, the Maid of Mischief Harley Quinn, and the Blue Beacon of Hope, X-Force 11.
What, are you a little worried about me casting dark magic?
Especially at your speed.
Yeah, who's going to keep up now? Well, hello, Legionnaires. Welcome back to Tomorrow's Legends. We're here for Season 6, Episode 14, There Will Be Brood. Directed by Macy Richardson Sellers herself, Charlie. I am the Flash.
I'm X-Force 11.
Hello, Legends.
And hello, Gideon. Don't worry, I won't be casting any magic. I have no idea what I'm doing anyway. So, a little something fell through the timeline, and we haven't heard this in a while.
Letters lost in the timeline.
We got a little special something from somebody you just might know. Let's play that.
Hey, Legendaires. This is Harley calling in with my thoughts on the last couple Legends episodes that I've missed. So overall, I actually really kind of enjoyed them. I don't know if it's because I'm not needing to be overly critical or what, but I just kind of, sat back and was enjoying the ride. I think it helped for me that it's focused a lot on the Constantine story, which is the story that I felt was kind of more compelling anyway, and what I was more interested in seeing. So I kind of liked that came to the forefront and that everything else sort of fell to the back burner. Actually, really in particular, liked the scenes with him and Zari, so I thought that was pretty good. Let's see what else. With Bishop coming back. Now, that was interesting. That wasn't something that I saw coming. I was kind of confused as to what they've done with him, and I kind of still don't really see him as this, evil big bad. It's kind of like a weird villain, and they've kind of even acknowledged that in the show, which is pretty hilarious, as they usually tend to do. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is going to be with him. I'm not really buying the pseudo comic book science that because he has 6% of Sarah's DNA that he now knows everything that Sarah knows. I think that's extremely hand wavy at best, but it's a comic book TV show and a cheesy one at that. So I guess we'll just leave that where that is. But other than that, I mean, like I said, pretty good last couple of episodes. So it'll be interesting to see how they wrap everything up. All right, well, I will attempt to get in more timely feedback. I'm not sure if that will happen since I'm not really trying to watch things live, but I'll keep sending in my thoughts. So talk to y'all later.
Well, how's that for a nice treat to hear her voice again?
Indeed.
It is really strange listening to feedback from her on a show that we started together. That's just so weird. So I'm curious if she listened to our podcast before she watched, or she's watched it and hasn't listened to us talk about it yet to see what our thoughts are and how it compares to what she was just saying.
I'm betting she's probably watched the episodes but hadn't got to the podcast, but that's just my guess. Being that her time is pretty limited right now.
Yeah. For all we know, she's watching it at 4 a.m. with a baby feeding or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, good to have Harley back on the show. Let's get into our ratings for this one.
So I gave this one 8.5 magical alien mushrooms.
Uh-huh.
This is the backstory of Spooner we needed all season. If we had gotten some hints of this, some memory flashes, something all season long, it would have been worth it. Honestly, they've got the multi-story lines going all season long, and now they're trying to tie them all together here at the end. And for me, it didn't really work. But what did work in this episode was the people. We immediately connected with Gloria. We connected with Esperanza and Spooner. And it was the heart connections that made things work for me. Spooner took the deal from John, but it was John who got double-crossed, and although I'm not sure this is the way John should go out, I did think it was a strong episode that way. So I liked those two aspects of the story, not so much the the brood part of it. So, but I thought it was a good episode, and for me better than last week. So,
right, it's funny listening to you. You're talking about how the show is trying to combine all their stories into one as it comes down to the end, and you just did that with your rating. You try to combine everything they've done into one rating. And I just can't. I saw this episode as 3 very distinct parts, and I could not come together and make an overall rating. So I've got 3 ratings for you here. I've got the Spooner backstory stuff, a 7. Mm-hmm. The Legends running around saving eggs, a 4. Ugh, we'll get to that. John being tricked by Bishop and dying on us, that was not in our predictions at all. I'm giving that a 9. 'Cause, yeah, that was some good stuff. So this one was all over the place. We had some great story. We had some so-so story. And we had some blatantly amateur directing bits that were just awful. And I can't just rate this as a whole because these parts, the 3-part rating to match the 3 distinct parts is what I had to go with here.
Okay.
And that the blatantly amateur directing bits were all of the scenes when they were trying to save the eggs. And we'll talk about that when we get to it. Mm-hmm. But once again, they've ended up turning this season pretty much into the Constantine show, but I guess it was to give him as much content as possible, knowing he's coming to an end, because they obviously had this pre-written as the season was starting. Yeah. So knowing that he's coming to an end, they're going to give him as much as they can. So we've been kind of had like 2.5 seasons now of just mostly Constantine storylines, and I for sure compared to what we were talking about last week. Oh, John, he's going to go into the totem with Zara, he's gonna walk off to give up magic and live happily after. I was not expecting for them to kill him in this episode, at least not the penultimate episode.
Yeah,
we were so far off our marks last week on our predictions. So, but I applaud the show for that because, and I'm gonna say just part of my words here. Finally, they had some balls to do something, and whether or not we all agree with it, I agree with Matt Ryan. If you guys read his interview. Mm-hmm. That I posted on the Facebook page, they've done all they could with John's story, and there really was no other way to end it than tragically. A happy ending just doesn't work for Constantine the character, so I applaud them for what they did, whether we liked it or not. I had to step away from it and go, you know what? Hats off to you guys. You took a chance and did something, shocking, and it worked for me.
Yeah, I agree about doing something different and kind of surprising us all, but once we get into our talking points, I'm gonna kind of pick on that ending just a little bit. But I did like that they surprised us, and the way that they did it, and just kind of throwing us off for a show that we can kind of see stuff telegraphed. They really made a different type move, so we'll get into it.
Yeah, well, and like you, I love that they took the chance, but I do have questions with things like, man, I wish they had done this. I wish this had happened. Mm-hmm. If they're killing him off, certain things should have happened, but we can't also have somebody's dying. Like when any of us die, it's not like you can put all your ducks in a row and be. If it happens, it happens. So that's kind of like he was being killed off, and not everything fell in place for him to get all the things that we wanted, which, yeah, like you said, we'll talk about when we get there. So let's get into our talking points for the show.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
Now, I want to start a discussion off tonight by saying that this was one of the best opening sequences we've had in I don't know how long. Mm-hmm. There was, right off the bat, Zari comes storming into John's house, and there's immediate tension. That there's that music, that low drumming hum in the background, building up the tension already. There's threat of something looming. Characters are at odds with each other, because the whole team ends up in the house pretty much, and John is being a complete ass to all of them. And so there's this tension and everything happening, and he's swindling them. He basically has them completely at a ruse here, so that the bad guys, him and Bishop, get the upper hand. Now that's how you start an episode. I timed it. It was the opening 2.5 minutes, and I was already on the edge of my seat going, whoa, they're hitting the ground running with this one. Holy cow.
Yeah, I liked how they did that, but I also loved, even in the midst of this deception and this astral projection we found out, I love that Zari she's upset, she's angry, mm-hmm. but she's got enough clarity to see through it and see it's a ruse. And I like that her emotions are there, but she knows enough that this is just biding time. So I like that aspect of it.
And that's what we've been talking about. This is Zari 2.0 for the last few weeks, is that she's smart. She has got John figured out. She's not a dummy. She's not that super shallow, empty, diva icon that she portrayed in the beginning. She actually is a really smart lady, and she's got things figured out. And especially with John, she can see through all of his crap. And what I was looking at when I was watching it, I was thinking, does she see him as John being seduced by the lure of magic again, or does she see him and realize this isn't John? This is something else that's in control right now.
I think she knows there's a big difference. I mean, she's coming back with the tea, and she's seeing all this destruction, and he's looking immaculate. No signs of distress here. I think she can see that there's something else going on here, and just by the way he's talking to her, because she knows, she probably would expect some playing off and feelings, feel sorry for me and that kind of stuff if he was really trying to play her. But this is just so dramatic of a twist that she's got to know something's wrong.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. So it's just the way she... The way she talked to him, and then when she hauls off and is about to smack him, that's kind of the part that's me, because it's like, is she trying to smack him to wake him up? Because people do that in movies all the time. It's like, snap out of it, whack. I wonder if that was the play there, and maybe she hadn't. Okay, maybe it is John, but he's possessed. He's taken over by something right now. So yeah, I have a feeling she knew, and that was going to be her test, was can she smack him out of it?
Yeah, could be. So we've got John and Bishop over on the Waverider. They've taken Gideon offline, and they figure out, due to John's magic abilities, that the fountain can be found in Texas in 1925. And so they head over there, and the fountain doesn't appear to be there. And I'm like, okay, what's going to go on there? And then you get all this exposition about mushrooms from Bishop. And so we find out that mushrooms are aliens, and that the fountain is probably an alien too. So I mean, it was a big info dump here, but that was kind of interesting.
And see, I actually really enjoy it. This is the part of Bishop that I don't mind at all. I'm coming to appreciate. Again, they squeezed in the scene this episode of him dancing on the Waverider and singing. That is the part about him that bugs me. Yeah. That completely nullifies him being a good villain when he's doing that. But here he is on the ground and he's explaining about the mushrooms. And to me, it's just fascinating because he's like, the way he describes it is like, look at a mushroom is unlike anything else on this planet. Of course they're not from here. And it's aliens that have come down and planted themselves. The actual part of the mushroom that's down under the earth is where the alien is. The mushroom is this, the top of it, like the hat, so to speak. I found that super entertaining. I thought it was awesome because mushrooms, I mean, I call mushrooms manure flowers because they grow out of poop pretty much, right? So, and people eat that. But anyway, I found it interesting. I loved the story behind it. It was just a fun, again, a sci-fi comic book show, like Harley said. Mm-hmm. Mushrooms are aliens? That's fun. I like that. That's fun, inventive writing. It seems like our writers have gotten a little bit creative these last couple episodes, and it's cool. And then, speaking of when you said Zari comes in with a T in the opening there, I forgot to mention, this is like the third episode in a row where it takes place seconds after the last week ended.
Exactly.
Which is cool. That is really neat that it's just flowing like that.
Yeah. I like that time is really, back to back to back, so that we are realizing how quick things are happening, and that we're not spending a lot of time that they would have to explain away.
No, yeah, and like weeks aren't passing and stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it might even be more than that, because we went from I think it started with the bowling episode, where that one ended, and the next one started with them walking in from the bowling alley.
Right.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
So it's...
Yep.
I wanted to also mention the fire effects for John's hands.
Ooh.
This episode, I don't know if you looked right at his hands. I paused it and rewound it and looked at it again. It was absolutely spectacular. They really made the fire look awesome. Even his hands were glowing like they were molten lava, and everything. I was like, holy cow! They have never made it. It looked like it was a superficial fire effect, superimposed on top of him before, but now it actually looked like his hands were burning. Mm-hmm. I think we've gotten a bit of boost in funding these last few episodes. I don't know what's going on, because I'm watching this episode as an example, and just them, like when Astra and Spooner were walking through the ship, there's all these little touches that have never been there before. Like when they walk down the hallway and turn a corner, there's a whole wall of LED screens just in the hallway, and they all got graphical information and stuff going on in them. We have never had touches like special effects touches like that in just the hallway alone. I think something's happened here with our funding a bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've saved some money up, and we've also probably gotten a little bump as well. So
yeah.
So it was interesting. We hear that the fountain is an alien, and Bishop says he can fool the fountain to accept John. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here?
Again, part of the effects that the fountain is an alien. Okay, sure, because we already learnt that the fountain is alien magic that got brought here. So why not the fountain itself be magical, and anything that comes into contact with it, if it approves of you, it shares its magic with you. Okay, that's cool. I can buy it. But that mushroom, when it sprung out of the ground, it was beautiful. I have to say, that was pretty majestic looking.
Yeah,
I'd be totally enthralled by that as well. And there's something I'm curious about here, though. It seemed, I know we found out near the end of the episode that Bishop double-crossed John, and I don't know if that was the plan all along. But that's the thing. Bishop is a master manipulator and always has a long game at hand here. But it just seemed for a little bit, and this seems a little bit crazy, but I almost thought for a bit there that John was in control of Bishop, because it seemed like Bishop was actually scared of him for a little bit there.
Yeah, but I think that is, once again, Bishop being who he needs to be.
Just acting.
He knows that it's going to work better if John thinks he's in control. And
gotcha.
I think that's that he's just that long game of playing him. So
and he's good at it, because it's like, wait a second, he seems to be a bit scared of John right now, and just that's a good way to explain it. He's letting John think he's in control. So
yeah. So John finds a young Esperanza and finds out who she really is and convinces her to take him home to Mama. And so I thought this was interesting, but we find out later that John makes this deal with Spooner by showing her the future. And honestly, I didn't catch this on the first time, but the young Esperanza hands him a flower out in the woods, and he has this flash, and we don't really see. And then, this is my nitpick.
Oh.
Form of water.
So handing him that flower automatically gives him a vision of the future of what's going to happen to Esperanza and her mom, and then he can pass that on to Spooner. I'm like, I just don't get that. I mean, I know that this is Legends, but I mean, that's just a little nitpicky for me. Because when I missed that the first time I watched it, and that handing over the flower is the way that he knows, I'm like, okay, no.
I don't know if I can even explain it away. There's two things I can think of, is that when he grabbed the flower from her, maybe it wasn't the flower. He may have touched her fingers. So it might have been hand-to-hand contact that passed him the future Flash knowledge. Plus, he is taken over by a super powerful dark side of himself that's been drinking the red, what was that stuff called? Not the red Sonya.
The Crimson something or another.
Yeah, the Red Lady or whatever it was.
Yeah, the Crimson Lady.
Yeah. So he's super powered by that. So his magic is super enhanced. So he might have this now future seeing abilities. Plus, he's also, near the fountain. I don't know. There's a lot at play there, and I do think it comes back to he probably touched her fingers when he was grabbing the flower, and that skin contact is what allowed him to glimpse who it was. So that's the only way I can explain that.
Yeah. Whatever. We'll move along, but that was just my nitpick, because I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So, he is so powerful. He puts everybody in the house to sleep except for Spooner, and really, I mean, we don't see him chugging the Crimson Lady or whatever. But, I mean, he's really using a lot of magic this episode. And I'm just thinking, I guess I'm like you. Maybe it is because he goes so close to the fountain. But he's able to knock everybody out, show Spooner the vision of the future, and then get her to agree. And so, it's interesting to see this upped magic ability here.
Well, the thing that maybe to help remind you and anyone else out there is when he's drinking that blood, and we saw him, he sipped from it like 3 or 4 times in this episode, and when he's drinking that, he is overpowered. Remember what he did? He actually transported the Waverider across space with his magic. So it is obviously really powerful for him to sit at a table and put a few people to sleep. That's probably like an apprentice spell, really, when he's that powerful. So and I liked. This was another episode where Matt Ryan was performing his physical acts of the magic really well, and even that moment at the table when he just and they all drop. I was like, ooh, that was actually really cool. It was so unexpected, and I didn't. It shocked me. I was like, "Whoa, holy, okay, that was a cool little thing." And now he's being the masterful. Whether it's Bishop influencing him a little bit, or it's just his dark side who's really good. He knew exactly what to say to Spooner to get her to help him. He knew exactly what she wanted, and
I agree. And so he ends up he's not going to entirely trust Bishop, so he's getting Spooner's blood to activate the fountain. And so he's just on top of things, because he's getting that to activate the fountain, and then we find out that he steals Bishop's serum. So I thought that was a really smooth move on his half. I mean, Bishop was probably expecting it now at the end that we know stuff, but still, I think it was pretty smooth.
yeah. I mean, he had them fooled, he had us fooled, because we didn't know that anything was going to be tainted or whatever. So it was, it was pretty smooth for sure. And I mean, it's neat that he pours the blood on the ground. This plays right into Constantine's type of story and the type of magic. It takes blood to bring something to life, or whatever they were explaining with. I just thought it was cool. And again, that mushroom looked really neat when I didn't expect that. I didn't expect this amazing glowing entity to come out of the ground, and it was cool. I was like, that's an alien mushroom. I like it.
So we do find out after Constantine takes the serum that Bishop's double-crossed him. And this is where it really gets interesting to me, because Bishop tied the fountain to John and then poisons John because he wants to kill the fountain.
Yeah.
And so we find out that this fountain was gifted to Earth to protect it from hostile alien attack. And Bishop wants the Earth to fall more quickly so he can work out his plan. So I liked that twist and turn there, but then I'm also scratching my head at it too. But I didn't know if you wanted to add any points to that.
Well, I liked that whole reveal when John takes the serum and jabs it in his arm. Bishop's still playing it up like, whoa, you sneaky devil. But then he's like, haha, after he jabs him, guess what? I tainted it with a poison. You're now tied to the mushroom. I'm going to kill you and the mushroom all in one fell swoop, and I'm done. I'm the master manipulator. Yeah, it was fun. It was cool. It was a cool moment and a good twist. I like a twist in the story that totally catches off guard, and that happened a couple times this episode. So I really like that. But even the story of the and it is funny if you actually think about it. Alien mushrooms here to protect the Earth. Well, okay, how are they going to protect the Earth? They're mushrooms, but it was something about performing a barrier or something. I can't remember how he explained it. So I liked it. It's cool. Again, it's fun sci-fi storytelling. And going into the part like you were saying, why does he want to kill the Earth more quickly to work out his plan? What is that plan now? Is this the same plan he's always had, or is this a new plan he's talking about?
Yeah, and the question I have is, if he's accelerating the takeover of Earth and the demise of Earth, wouldn't that mean that the Earth dies before he's born in the future? So, he's a time remnant.
Yeah.
yeah. But I just like, okay, I get the kind of, okay, he's trying to accelerate things, but doesn't that accelerate things so that he's not going to be around? I don't know, but it's interesting, and that's what we're going to get the fallout of next week. Looks like, with the barrier being down, but just questions about, like, okay, doesn't that cut you out of the story?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen any previews for next week, so I don't know what is, and I almost don't want to. You guys are always complaining on Facebook what it's giving away. I'm like, I am so glad I'm not watching them.
Yeah, and this one was bad because it was just like, okay, you're taking some of the depth out of this story because of what we see in the promo. But anyway.
Well, my suggestion to everybody is just stop watching it before they show next week on. Just stop it, turn it off. But I'm wondering if Bishop, because he's the master genetics engineer that he is, and he's already got himself saved all over the place now, up in the cloud and on the Waverider, I'm wondering if he just thought, he's on a time ship, he's in the Waverider's program, he controls the ship at this moment, he doesn't have to worry about killing the Earth earlier because he's now taken himself out of the timeline. So maybe that's kind of what's going on there.
It could be.
Yeah.
So we will get into the aspect of John dying in Flash's favorite scene a little bit later.
Yeah.
But Zari arrives just in time to see him being digested by mushroom roots. And here's where if this is the last time we see John, I'm going to have some regrets because of we get nothing from Zari. She's there. You see her being distraught, but we get no closure at all. And I'm just not sure that we may get to see her somewhat processing that in next episode. But I just feel I feel a little bit cheated that we have built up this relationship over this season so far, and we've come to like their relationship, and we're not going to get to see any closure there. I mean, John, we don't even know if he knew that she was there at the end. So this is where I'm just a little, I think they could have done something a little bit better, because I just don't know that we will get to see any closure between the two of them. And maybe it's going to be that tragic thing, but I just don't know. And that just leaves me worried about what's going to come next.
Yeah, and I agree with your sentiments behind it and your feelings, because it sucks to see, like you said, we just started really enjoying these two together. They had a powerful emotional connection, a love story, you could say, in the last episode, and it worked. And for this to happen and them not get to say goodbye to each other, it's emotional, and that hurts us to have to watch. And it sucked. But it still falls into what Matt Ryan was saying, that because it is Constantine, he should not have a happy ending. He should not. He can only die tragically or have a tragic end because of the character he is and what he has done throughout his entire life. Like, the history of Constantine is a tragic story, so there is no other way to write him. And I think for me that makes me accept the way they did it. As much as it sucks, it makes me think on that and go, he's actually right. Constantine can't have a happy ending, not even a happy moment. But he did, and we'll talk about it in my favorite scene. He got to say what he needed to say to Astra, because Astra Zari's fairly new. Astra has been his whole life, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I do believe he got the moment he needed to before he went, and it just sucks. I don't think he knew Zari was there, because his face was almost completely covered when she showed up and knelt on the ground beside him, and he was just looking. He was already glazed over and was already pretty much gone. And I think what was his last? He just had like a breath of air basically before it closed up. So she didn't get a moment, and she had to watch that. What I found interesting too is it was just her and Nate that came running. Why didn't everyone else come running?
Because the rest of them were on the way.
Right. They were on. Yeah, they were helping Mick. For some reason, I was placing it back to them being at the house still. So it sucks, because I now that I've seen that scene a couple times, Zari drops to her knees and she doesn't even want to touch him. She just says, "John," and she's watching this happen. Nate's standing beside her, and he's just completely distraught as well. He's just, hands on his hips. He looks at the sky. He's like, oh, you could see the look on his face. He's like, oh man, another one. And it was just. So when you watch the whole scene a couple times and you look at every character, that's what made that scene really powerful. And it's like, gee, I mean, you just watched a friend die, and there's nothing you could do. That makes it tough.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I want to see them. If they are going to close it out that way, I want to see some fallout next episode with her. Yeah. I really, really want to, because I don't think it would be fair to her character not to have some fallout. But we'll see. Hopefully they will.
Yeah, and that's the question, is that I get the feeling this was the end of him. We will not see him. They surprised us by doing it this episode instead of the finale. I don't think there's going to be any type of redemption or chance that they'll get to say goodbye. Like, he'll get to come back as a ghost, a magical ghost from hell, and say, see ya. I just don't think, because that would be too cheesy for me. So I think they're going to stick with the shock. If there is fallout, it's going to be Zari maybe trying to see what she can do to save him, or maybe she's so distraught that she's like, I want in the totem, get me out of here. We don't know.
Yeah. Yep, that's tough.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Don't worry.
Yeah. So the next section, these two storylines were, the A and the B were so tied together. This is Spooner, Astra, Gloria, and Esperanza, and so Astra and Spooner don't get called away. They're evidently off to the side, and so they're on the hijacked ship, and so Astra wants to find out more information, so she transforms them into a snow globe and a fork so that they can listen in to the story. And I thought that was really smart of her.
It was funny because, again, another quick magic trick that she seems to be getting better. We're not seeing her practice so much, but her magic is getting better every episode too. And again, Spooner becomes a fork again. Haha, that's the joke. It's just, but they're lucky that Bishop's never been on the ship, so he doesn't acknowledge that those items shouldn't be there on the table. And John's taken over by a darker version of himself who probably doesn't recognize things or would know that those, because any of the other characters, if they were there, they'd be like, what the heck, these don't belong here.
Yeah. So they get off the ship, and we're in Texas. The oil fields are there, and we see this injured worker, and in comes Gloria, and she is able to make him feel better. She doesn't completely, magic his leg, but she does heal him. But we quickly get introduced to the big bad of that storyline of Doc, who's in charge, and he's looking for this fountain of oil, and sends the character back to work. And he's wanting Gloria's land because he thinks that this fountain of oil is under her land. And he was pretty one-dimensional big bad, but it was interesting to see how it drew Gloria into the story.
You know what? They casted him great. This guy perfectly played the part, and it suited the year that we're in, or the era that we're in. He perfectly played a money, power hungry Mongol that doesn't care about anything but you getting him his money, and he played it well. And he was a good, just a single episode, but he was a good bad guy for this episode. I had no problem with him, and it just showed you how nasty it was back then. You think of when they built the railroad, when they were searching for oil, when they were gold mining. I mean, there was all kinds of stories like this that just don't get shared in the news, or and it went on. So it made sense to me. It was like, that's exactly how it would have been.
And so I love this. He's getting ready to draw on Gloria, but Spooner's got her just huge gun on her hip, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna back off here.
The only thing I have a minor nitpick here is Astra and Spooner did not change their clothes. They're wearing super modern clothing, and just they stand out like sore thumbs, and nobody noticed. Nobody took, and I thought, okay, that was just a small thing that bugged me. They usually dress to fit the era that they're in, and they didn't this time. So, mind you, Gideon was down and out, and they probably couldn't use the replicator to make themselves the proper outfits. But still, I was just like, how come nobody even said, like, geez, are you from out of town, or are you foreigners? Like, nobody even acknowledged it. So
I mean, without her, they didn't even know the time period till they read the paper.
Yeah, exactly. But the gun was funny. I mean, that I wonder what the guy thought when he looked at it. I was like, what the heck is that? I've never seen a 6-shooter look like that before. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, out of gratitude, Gloria quickly offers to have them, come over for supper. And so, I love this because Spooner her wheels are just spinning. By this time, she realizes it's her mom, and she thinks that her mom got sent back in time. And so this is very interesting because we get this turnabout. Once they get to the house, we find out it was the other way around. But I like that she's immediately, the aliens wiped her memory and set her back in time. And so I like the little play on the expectations there because, we get to the house and we're seeing all these pictures in the story and we find out, no, it's the other way around. And so I like the writers, how they twisted it for us here.
Yeah, it was a little confusing at first, though. I was sitting there going, how does this work? I don't understand how they're way back in this time period. And yet it's Spooner as a kid. And then when she started to figure out, I was like, okay, so she thinks she was abducted and sent back in time. And then, like you said, they flipped it. And then as we found out, it started making more sense. And then her story got more interesting because up until this point, I was like, I still don't have an attachment to Spooner. I'm like, not really caring about her backstory or where she came from. Like you said, we needed it, but we should have got it a long time ago, like the first 3 episodes of having her on the show, not wait till the very end of the season of being with her and not really caring about her. We should have got this depth for her early in the season. That's what bothers me. But it did get more interesting as it started to reveal what actually happened. I was like, okay, that's another good twist. We had a couple of them this time.
Yeah, and I like we get a history of just the strength of their family, of coming to the United States and making a new life, and Gloria building the house and being bold and being a healer at that time, which was not an easy thing for a woman. And so you can just see where Spooner gets her strength. And you see, once John shows her the future, that Gloria's going to stand up to these people and get killed, and she's going to get transported to the future. You see, okay, I'm on task. I've got to protect my mom, and I'm going to protect myself, even if it's going to change everything. And so we've seen Drive with Spooner before, and we've seen like a want for vengeance. But here we see, okay, I have a fuller understanding, and I'm going to do what it takes to protect my mom.
Yes. Now I had to watch it a second time to be okay with this, because the first time through, I'll be honest, I was like, here we go. I kid you not, and I mean, you've been a feedbacker, and now you're with us, X-Force. Every single season for the last 4 seasons, I've been saying, here we go, another new character is going to have I can change my past and go back in time and fix my history. Every new character gets that treatment, and this was just Spooner's turn, and so I was just like, here we go. Here's the change my own history storyline, okay. But the second time through, I was okay with it once I knew the story and was going through it, then okay, sure. It just immediately I just got that, tongue-in-cheek response, like, But.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're kind of biased with time travel. We're so used to time travel shows, and especially with this one, like you said, it's like, we know we can't do that, but our emotions aren't connected. But we'll get a little more into why she changes her mind in my favorite scene a little bit later. But this aspect that comes up is very cool to me. Once her younger self is taken by the fountain, she is more fully connected with it. I mean, we see her hands glowing, and then we get to see her basically use that fountain force to make those guys feel her pain, isolation, anguish. And we kind of get the picture of why she's had this ability to connect with the aliens before, and we have a greater understanding now, not because she was experimented on, but because the fountain transported her. But here we've got it upped because she's actually using the roots under the ground to connect with these guys and have a power and ability. And I'm like, okay, are we going to see this continue? And so that was kind of interesting to kind of think about.
It was. Again, it took a minute to understand what was happening there. Why are her hands glowing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Because we hadn't seen that before. Is it under stress and duress that she suddenly had a power awaken? Because, I mean, that happens. That's what happens with the mutant abilities of the X-Men. You know, they're turned to teenagers and stress brings it out of them or whatever. So that's what I was thinking was happening there. I'm like, boy, she's a late bloomer. But then you realize, it's because her younger self is connecting to the mushroom, that now fast forwards to her older self, which is from the future. And so everything caught up through time, basically, because we thought she was kidnapped by aliens and did something happen to her. And like you explained it here, she's just connected to him. She wasn't experimented on. She's just connected to it. And it did, like, so when it grabbed her younger self and it pulled it up and then she slowly fades away, is it teleporting her somewhere? Or is that, like, it took her to the future in that moment?
Right, and the thing about it is, it took her to the future, and it altered her memories. I mean, she's got gaps, and she assumed that was because of the alien experimentation, but we learn here that she remembers things about, we know that she remembers things about her mom before she was kidnapped, quote unquote, but she doesn't remember them happening in that era. I mean, she doesn't remember, like, it being in that era. So some things had to happen in the transition of that teleportation. It was not like a traditional, time courier door or something like that. So she was, maybe like the mushroom, the fountain transported her through its roots through time, and some things got messed up, memory wise there. I don't know, but it was definitely interesting.
Alien magic or whatever. I mean, anything can happen. We don't have to have an explanation for it because it's alien. We're not going to know. And so, I mean, maybe it's mushroom roots just went into her brain and rewired a few things. I mean, or just erased her memory. I mean, we can do that here. You can hypnotize someone and get them to think something else, or subliminal suggestions, things like that. So whatever, brain trickery is possible. And if it's alien, who are we to say that the mushroom alien can't do something like that to her? So like I said, it took a little bit to understand what really was happening there, but it leads to her future self, who's now back in time. She kind of slowly falls to the ground there, and I thought she was dying. I was like, what is happening? Is she, because her younger self, who she just shared time with, now got transported to the future? Does her future change because she interfered with herself when she was younger? So therefore she's being taken to a different future, and this version of herself that's back here in Texas is now dying because it's not her, because she just changed her past. You know what I'm saying?
Or the other option is the fountain is dying, and she's so tied to it as an adult because it's her blood that opened up the fountain, and she's tapped into it to connect with those guys, that she's basically tied to it like Constantine is, and when it dies, she dies, or at least it's gonna zap her a whole lot. I thought she was dying too, but I'm interested to see which storyline they go with. Is it this is gonna be a different Spooner, or it's because she was tied to the fountain? I don't know.
Hopefully that's part of the finale, that they show us what the heck's going on with her.
All right. now we get to the C story.
C for crap?
It's no secret. Yeah, it is no secret that neither one of us particularly cared for this. So the Legends are stranded. No Bayrod still. No Bayrod again in this episode. We forgot to mention that last episode. He was off visiting his parents.
And again, I didn't notice he was gone this episode. That tells me, it's bad.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is we get the plot device of Nate saying, "Why do we ever take our time couriers off?" Something that we've all been thinking all season long. It's like, you've got a time courier. Why do you ever take those things off?
I know, it's so funny that he mentioned that. It's like, and that's the show making fun of themselves. That's
I know. So since they have no time couriers, they've got to find a way to get to the ship. And Kayla is the answer.
Yep. But the way they get to Kayla, like what Galaxy Post or Intergalactic Post, it's basically Space Facebook.
Yeah. Or Space Instagram.
Is their way to lure Kayla in because she is worried about her reputation or whatever? Like, it's just... This was the really over-the-top goofy stuff that I just didn't get, because what they were trying to build here for Kayla, that she cares about her Instagram post, it didn't make sense. It does not suit the Kayla that we know, that she's going to give a damn about social media. This just doesn't jive with the character that we know, or this rough and tough, army. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more about the babies, but people know that she had babies with a human or something like that. I don't know, but I mean, to her, it's all about the eggs and getting back to them. And so she does show up, and Mick confesses his love for her, and so I'm like, okay.
So against type for Mick's character too. I mean, just watching him trip over himself and bumble and fumble because he has feelings for the first time. I was just like, I don't know if I can. I thought it was funny the first time, but as they've continued this storyline for him, I'm just like, I like that Mick's opening up and being a little bit more emotional and expressive, but I guess this is the woman of his dreams, and it finally makes him, trip over his own tongue, as he can't, he's never felt like this before. So I guess it's okay. But the whole setting him up with a picture and taking, and he's good. This is bad. I'm feeling bad for Dominic Purcell. Like, oh man, they're putting you through the ringer with some horrible stuff you got to do. It's just, I don't know if he's even enjoying it. I mean, the only funny moment I had was in the beginning when Zara was about to slap John, and she slaps right through him, and he freaks out, ghost! And I'm like, okay, that was funny, but I don't know. I feel bad for the Mick character. I know a lot of people are complaining about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the way that they're kind of taking him out, but so they make their way. They find the Waverider. They get on board, and of course, Bishop has booby-trapped the eggs. And basically, it's that, what is that game, concentration, where you set the timer and you got to get the pieces in before they explode. And Bishop calls it 48 pickup, and because of the number of eggs there. And once again, they get all but one, and Mick goes to get it, and he's blown back by the explosion. And you're thinking, is this really what you're going to do to him? Is this how you're going to take him out? It's just, I don't know. I'm just like,
Okay, this is where I gave it a 4. This whole sequence was just amateur. The cutting from scene to scene was bad. The angles of the camera angles was bad. the acting was bad. Like, they're all, I don't know what was wrong with Sarah and Ava and Mick. They're acting extremely poorly in these scenes. And I don't know if it's because they realize how stupid and bad it is. I have no idea. But when they all run out to the hall as, oh, we forgot one. And just all four of them trying to act like, oh, what are we going to do? Oh, no. It was horrible. It was the worst acting I've seen these guys do ever on this show. And then Mick runs in, and again, it's the horrible not acting, the angles. You see Mick diving for the last egg, and then it cuts to this weird angle of him grabbing the egg, and then it cuts to the explosion. It's just it was goofy. They made it look so goofy and not good, where they're building the tension of something about to happen. They made the sequence way too goofy. Because then when the explosion happened, the explosion was shocking, but it lost the emotional effect of it. And even though me and Patty Spitworth, we both went, oh, what just happened? Because there was money has been thrown at the show, because that explosion was amazing. It looked like Mick was completely engulfed by the fireball, and you could see it almost melting him as he's flying backwards, whereas normally the effect we would get is just an explosion, and Mick, you would see that he was like green screened, and it just never would look good. And they made it look really good. So that little moment, that little 3-second moment, was like, holy crap, what did they just do to Mick? Because did they kill him off? Like, or is he going to be even more scarred now by fire, because that's his thing? That's part of his story. Yeah. And then I saw you guys all complain on Facebook about seeing next week's scenes. You already know what's going on. I'm like, and God, I'm glad I don't see that stuff, but I'm not going to read the Facebook posts anymore, because now I got ruined on that myself.
Well, I mean, obviously you see him in the promo, so if he's in the promo,
he's okay. Which is like, stupid. Why would they show that? But
well, I mean, that's the thing. I don't understand it. We've had this since the Lost days. The promo people are not the show people.
We've heard that. Yep.
They're just given, here's the episode, do a promo, and it's like, okay, and they're not consulting the actual people in charge with the show to say, this might be the best thing to air 2 seconds after we did this. So because
it kills the cliffhanger, right? Yeah,
right.
Totally kills it. Yeah, I've heard you guys talk about that, and I remember Survivor did it 1 or 2 seasons ago. I'm a big Survivor fanatic, but they had something happen where it was like a competition between the two tribes, and the show ended with you not knowing who won, and it was a big moment because depending on who won, someone was leaving the show. It was like right down to the last final moments, and then in the next time on Survivor, they show you who wins, and it's like, you just ruined the whole cliffhanger that you left us hanging on 2 seconds later by showing us next time, and that's when, and actually the problem why I'm bringing that up is because Jeff Probst, who's the host of Survivor, him and the CBS staff were extremely pissed off that this big reveal got given away, because that's what they wanted to be left hanging, and they got in contact with whoever does the promos, and there was a big legal battle over it. They gave them heck for doing that because they ruined it. So I don't know if things are going to change because of this court case now that promo people either don't do it anymore, or they have to check with the show producers first. So I wonder how far that there'll be a trickle effect to other TV. I don't know, but it was really interesting that it became a big legal thing, because it completely ruined one of the biggest moments of that season of Survivor that they had banked on, getting fans to be hanging on by the edge of their seat, and it got ruined by the promo people. So crazy. And here's Legends doing it. Like, come on. So at least I hope they explain it. How does Mick survive it? Why is he okay?
Yeah.
Do we have a massive time jump at the end of the episode after they solve everything? I don't know. Maybe we find out Mick has a secret ability of being immune to fire now. We have no idea. I don't know. Let's get to our favorite scenes. How about that?
Sounds good.
Shape out and eagle!
So I'm first up this week, and I liked the speech that Gloria gave to Spooner. And so we're going to take a listen, and then we'll talk a little bit about it.
All right.
Spooner, remember, if Esperanza doesn't go to the fountain, then you never come back to save Gloria.
I'd rather protect her now so I can become the person my mom always hoped I'd be.
If she does that, then my little girl and I, we can stay together, yes?
Yeah, you'll stay together, but history will be completely changed. And you'll never meet the legends or help us save Sarah. You'll never become you, Spooner, which means we never become friends. And I really don't want to lose my friend.
I can't let that innocent girl go through what I went through.
If Esperanza does go, she will grow up without me, but she becomes you. And history will be preserved, yeah? Then Astra is right and we have no choice. Esperanza has to go.
Losing you was the worst moment of my life, Mom. I spent every day trying not to think about what happened to you, and it only made me angry and bitter. I didn't become the kind of person you wanted me to be. Not even close.
Yes, you did. You became that person. You are brave. You have a big heart. You are a time traveler. Whether it's aliens or the universe at play, you being here now is not a coincidence. We were meant to find each other again. Whatever powers took you away also brought you back to me. Somos salvados solo por la fe.
We're saved by faith alone.
Stay with Gloria. I'll get Esperanza to the fountain.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Astra's speech about changing time. I liked that didn't have an effect on Spooner's mind, but it was her mom's speech, her mom breaking through, that made the difference. And it's one of those things where we see the importance of family, and I'm liking that they didn't go with this friendship that we've just started seeing. No, that's not going to break through. It was her mom that broke through. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I liked the scene because the music buildup was beautiful there and everything. The only part that I struggled with for a moment there was, we're in, what was it, like 1875 or something? Texas or whatever, how far back we were? Or 1925?
1925, yeah.
It just, her mom seemed pretty readily accepting the fact that she's from the future and all the science timey-wimey stuff. She didn't even question it at all. She just, really? You're from the future, okay. I just thought someone from that era might have had a little more trouble imagining that and just even understanding the scope of that her daughter's from the future and all this stuff. So but the only part where it makes it okay is because she had her reading War of the Worlds and she said, I want my daughter to have an open mind to everything. I was okay, her mom is already of that open-mindedness and can easily accept things, but it's still just, again, it's one episode and they didn't have enough time to fit some more of that in, which leads to us saying we should have gotten this backstory for her sooner, and then they could have stretched that out a little bit more to explain why her mom would just accept that right away.
Yeah. And it was a nice callback to when we saw Spooner reading War of the Worlds, in the earlier episode, reading the book. So. Right.
Still, nice scene though. That music really seals it for me on that one.
Yep.
So I'm going with the farewell to John. I have to go with his final scene. I may not be as emotionally tied to Constantine as some people are, or some of the other characters. I mean, his death isn't as impactful as, say, when Snart sacrificed himself in season 1. That made me cry. I didn't cry for Constantine. I had watery eyes, but it's a fitting end to his story. It's fitting that his last moments are with Astra, because that's all he's ever truly cared about. The entire Constantine story has all revolved around not saving Astra, and that's been his driving force through his entire storyline. From his show to this show, it's always been about what he couldn't do for Astra. So I found that very fitting that his last moments are with her. It's fitting that magic is what takes him in the end. And I felt more than I thought I would for him. I mean, he has grown on me these last couple seasons that we've had with him, aside from the parts where he's been annoying, he has grown on me. So I'll play the clip, and then, because I know you've got some thoughts you want to share about this scene as well. So here it is.
John?
Astra, I'm so bloody sorry.
Just tell me what to do. There's got to be a spell that can help you.
Oh, not this time.
No. You're John Constantine. You always have a plan. You have a trick up your sleeve.
As luck would have it, I'm all out of tricks this time. Oh, you were my greatest failure. And my biggest accomplishment. God, you look like your mum. She would be so proud of me. So proud.
No. John, I need you to try. I need you to stay alive.
He says thank you. That was at the very end. He says thank you. And it's the other reason I like this scene is because I hadn't been a big fan of Astra for most of the time she's been with us, but I liked the story that they have built between him and her, and it really came to a nice final moment between the two of them. And I think this was the best moment she's had as an actress on this show. It really wrapped up. You could feel the weight of their entire story together all the way back from his own show. They seem to really gather all of it in that final moment with each other. She put aside her greed for power and her snarkiness and all. She put it all aside because in this moment she seemed to understand John was who saved her. It's because of him that she's able to have a chance at life, and she now wants to save him. It was powerful to me. That's why I gave that whole bit a 9, because I felt finally in the end the power of the story of John and Astra.
Yeah, I like that, like you said, they're bookending his story with the start of his descent into magic because of losing Astra and her being the end. I like that bookending. I like you am still, I've been unsure about her character. I think she's made some progress, but I think I don't know that I'm sold on her yet. I think his weight is what the weight of his life and the show and what we've seen in Legends is giving her weight. I don't know that I've felt that weight and that caring from her yet. Like like everything I'm getting is from him investing in her, not necessarily from what we've seen of her on screen. And so maybe we'll start to see some more of that development. I like the friendship with Spooner, but I just felt like a lot of this season she's been immature. She's been not a part of the team, and she's just finally getting into stuff with magic. And so the weight of it there, to me, is because of him. And so I think I enjoyed it. I think it would have been better if we had started to see some growth of her during the season to really, okay, I am going to take up this mantle and do magic and do it in the right way. I think if they had worked a little more of that and less of the, oh, I don't want to bowl, I don't care about bowling, that type of attitude that we saw in this season, I would have cared more about her. So it's powerful to me, but it's powerful because of John's story, not necessarily Astra in this current setting.
Yeah,
so.
no, and that's it. You just put your own spin on exactly what I said. It took to this last moment for me to feel something, because she has been annoying. She's been that annoying character, and it just hasn't worked. It didn't allow us to want to care for her when she's too busy being annoying. Right. So, but in the end, so now we have to see what happens going forward. If she sticks around, if she is now the magic, because magic, I don't know, it hasn't fully felt part of this show like it belonged here yet. So I don't know if they're going to continue with that or not. If she stays on, I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys. So if you would like to support the show, just listen to how you can do that with our Patreon clip here.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
If you don't dial, it will cry like a violin.
All right, it is email time from Perry White, and he says, "Hey, X-Force and Flash, Perry White here with feedback for an incredibly exceptional episode of Legends of Tomorrow. There will be Brood. I'm just gonna get straight to the point. I'm giving this episode 9 sips of that evil blood potion out of 10. I'd like to get more in depth, but you guys and fellow feedbackers do it much better than I can." Oh, come on, Perry, you always got some well-written words. Let's see what he says here. "All I can say is that I loved watching this episode, and it needs to be the level that Legends reaches on a much more consistent basis. So here are my stray observations. I'm sure no one noticed that Bayrod was in the future visiting his parents. Take the hint, writers." Why end this episode with the tease of Mick and Spooner's quote-unquote demise if only to show them in the season finale promo? Yep. I'm not a cinephile, so I don't always know what a director technically brings to an episode. All I do know is that I totally love this ep. The moments between Astra and Spooner, Spooner and her mom, and even the duplicity between Bishop and Constantine. If I'm going to give credit to folks beyond the actors and writers, I will give it to Macy. I'm going to guess the director's job is to make sure the story comes through in a compelling way, so mission accomplished, Miss Richardson Sellers. Yes, on all accounts, but the bits with Mick saving the eggs, yeah. I think she let the assistant director take over. I'm too tired. You do that. I'm going. That's what it felt like. So knowing that Mick survived a bomb to the face, how exactly did he do it? And how does Spooner survive the poisoning of the fountain when it apparently killed Constantine? If she survives, then we have to assume that he does too, somehow, even if he won't be back on the show. Yeah, I mean, if they're apparently in the next episode, we'll see. Who knows? Maybe, like I said, maybe it's a big time jump. We don't know. The only thing that's been hella strange about this entire season has been that Sarah Lance has been reduced to almost an innocent bystander on her own show. That's got to start changing. Yeah, that is actually interesting. If you think about the last few episodes, she has not really been in it. Yeah. Not since they rescued her. Well, even then, even when she was stolen by Bishop, she wasn't around much until we started getting split episodes with her on there. So that's strange. Well, based on the promo for the finale, it looks like the writers found a plausible way to not have to invite familiar faces to the Avalanche wedding. It's hard to send out invitations and juggle seating arrangements during an apocalypse. It's also strange that a show... I have no idea what you're talking about, but okay. It's also strange that a show that is often not included in world-saving crossovers will apparently be dealing with its second extinction-level event in a matter of a few episodes. Guess Legends don't need those superhero team-ups like Barry Allen. Can't wait to talk about the finale. I promise I'll have more time to provide my thoughts and feelings. This is Perry White, making his deadline as best he can. I'm out. See, you always got good things to say, Perry.
Yep. Next up, we've got an email from Daryl Washington. Daryl says, "What is up with Astra always changing her best friend Spooner into a fork? They're friends now, and no one can tell me differently." I agree. I saw the friendship in this episode. Mushrooms are aliens? That would definitely explain why they grow so fast. Nice job on the poltergeist reference. Yeah, I like Gary's little she's back, or she's here.
So fun, so fun.
Don't be so fast to dismiss Bishop's sacrifice idea. Just make Bishop the sacrifice. Yeah, can we please? Constantine got outsmarted by the lamest villain, and I hate it. Yeah, I agree with you there.
I know. But again, not to defend Bishop, but he's been alive for hundreds and hundreds of years, and he's just got all that kind of experience to be a master manipulator. So that's all I can say about him. It still sucks.
Yeah. And then we had some quick thoughts from Jeff Childs on Facebook. That was a really good episode. The relationship between Spooner and her mother was really touching. It had tears in my eyes. Constantine's death, not so much. I hope that wasn't really the end of John. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious about that. How many people, did that affect them seeing John die or not? I'm curious where the split is on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Last up, I forgot to put it in the notes here, but we do have a voicemail from Dreamweaver. Here she is.
Yay!
Hello, Legendaires. Dreamweaver here with my feedback for Legends Episode 14, There Will Be Brood. And let me just start off by saying, this is what I'm talking about. This feedback might be a little long, because there's a lot of good to talk about. I'm giving this 9 magic mushrooms out of 10. There were only a few things that didn't work for me, and I'll get those out of the way first, but overall, this episode was so good. Heart and emotional moments, character depth, timey-wimey stuff, the effects looked really good, big stakes, even for the guest characters, and honestly, it got me a few times emotionally. Man, this is good Legends, and what a penultimate episode should be too. Probably my favorite penultimate since Doomworld in Season 2. Which, with how all over the place and messy this season has been as a whole, that's saying something. Now, what I didn't like or felt could have been stronger, first, the way of contacting Kayla is through a galactic Instagram. That is pretty prime Legends idea, but I feel like even though they were stranded, I feel as though they could have utilized the rest of the team more here. That's the only thing I really felt was missing, was that half of the team didn't really get any big moments or great material. And I know that we literally saw him swallowed up in a ball of fire, but I don't think Mick is dead. I'm guessing there's a, Gideon miracle or something, alien tech, something, but I'm guessing next episode he's going off with Kayla and their 48 babies and riding off into the Milky Way. Still not a fan of that. Now, on one hand, Mick going out in a fire in an attempt to save his kid, his family, would be rather poetic for his character, but the fact it's for alien eggs that came out of his head and not, like, Lita, his actual kid, makes it weird to me. Okay, aside from that, the rest of this episode was fantastic. I haven't been a fan of the magical addiction storyline, but John's dark, empathy-killed side really worked here, especially once you see him get his emotions and sense of self back at the end when he realizes it's too late. Matt Ryan really can't perform. Well, I really wish his death had been a bit more heroic, or at least a bit more in his control, like sacrificial. But him going out on a mistake with his ego also aligns with his character. Regardless, it was pretty heartbreaking. Him talking to Astra, and then Zari arriving just as he dies, and she doesn't even get to get a word in. And I wish that we had this more manipulative, darker Bishop from the start. Flash, I'm saying it out loud here, but I did not mind him. There, I said it. He's better now. And why did he have to be so god-awful annoying back when it was just between him and Sarah? Ugh. This would have elevated this season from the get-go if we had just gotten this. And Spooner's story was so good. Finally, we get to see her mom and get those answers about her past. No alien abductions, but a scared, lost kid who got her memories mixed up because of trauma and a little bit of magic, and then sent through time for protection. I was not expecting at all that she was going to be from the 1920s. That was a cool twist. And there was so much charged emotion in the connection between her and her mother. Spooner getting the temptation from John that all time travelers seem to run up against, the temptation to change their past and to give her younger self a better life, one with her mother in it. Then Gloria talking to her how she can't let her own daughter change her past just to be with her, and her accepting her fate even though she knows she's going to die. And Astra even talking to Spooner and learning from her own past. Because I love that they connected the similarities between Astra and Spooner's stories. Both losing their mom and then separated not only from their mothers but from the worlds they knew. And now Astra coming full circle with the lesson about trying to change the past, because that's exactly what she was trying to do with the Loom of Fate last season, and now she's imparting that wisdom to her friend. And everything about Spooner getting just that one last chance to talk to and see her mom, and just the conversation all around between the two of them, there definitely may have been a tear or two shed there. See, this is just one of those examples that shows what kind of storytelling depths are possible with time travel stories. Like with Nate and his grandpa, Sarah and Laurel's death, Zari 1.0 and her family. There's so much there, and that's why we love the timey-wimey. There's also a fairy tale element to this, with the setting and the magic, a mystical force helping a young, newly orphaned child, the fable aspect, moral tale, don't trust strangers in the woods, etc. And it worked really nicely. This one had both the grounded and the otherworldly feeling that comes with a mix of magic and alien. And that came from a giant magic alien mushroom, which I found completely normal too in this episode. But there are some questions raised by what happens here, and also with what happens to the fountain. Spooner fights off the oil tycoon and his men, and Gloria's still alive, so what happens now with that? Or is she possibly still going to die in the next episode? What happens now that the fountain is dead in 1925? It looks like it affected Spooner there at the end, but time-wise, does she not get her alien powers? And wouldn't that mess with the timeline? Does the fountain exist in 1943 when they went back to Spain to find the fountain in the first place? And Bishop said that the fountain acted as a shield against invasive alien species. Does that mean any alien threat that came for invasion? So killing the fountain in the 20s is what allowed all these different aliens to come to Earth in the present? You know, for example, like all the ones on Supergirl? Or could they just always come, but maybe just not certain species? And there was a few other nice little touches that made this episode just a touch better too. Young Spooner reading World of Worlds, which older Spooner was reading a few episodes ago, and her love for adventure and wanting to see other worlds coming out of that. Also random nod, but H.G. Wells wrote War of the Worlds, and Martin Stein cured him of his tuberculosis back in season 1. So, little connection there. And then after Bishop takes over the Waverider, the ship turns pink and blue, which on one hand looked very cool, but those are the two colors that John's magic turned when he first trips out back in the Spanish Civil War episode after he first drinks the blood concoction. Whoa. So another nice touch there with those colors taking over the ship. Maisie did a really good job directing this one. This one had a lot of heart. And alright, I think that's it, but I feel like I could say more, but I just know that I really enjoyed this episode. So until next time, let's see how the finale plays out. Your friend, Dreamweaver.
Nice.
Leave it to Dreamweaver to find all the connections between past seasons and other shows in the CW. Way to catch those, for sure. She made one good strong point I just want to touch on. Yeah, I mean, she made a lot of good strong points, but the one I want to bring up is the Mick and Lita thing, and that's part of why I think we are not enjoying this alien baby thing, because he's got a perfectly normal human daughter that we were enjoying and having fun with, seeing him as a dad and struggling through that with her. And they push that aside to give us this alien baby story instead, and want us to just accept that he's going to be the same doting, protective dad over a bunch of alien eggs. It just doesn't work. Give us Lita, keep Lita, and let us go with all of that, because it would have been way more emotional for us to see him go through that. It would have connected us better, and we love Lita because she's basically just a younger version of him. So big mistake, writers. Big mistake there. this whole season.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome thoughts, everybody. If you want to join the show for the finale, we got one left of Legends this season, and then, just a very, very short break before the next season. So join us for the finale, and this is how you do that.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegendspodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at Tomorrow's Legends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/Tomorrow's Legends and become part of the community.
Alrighty, like we said, 1 week to the finale, and then Legends is done for a little bit. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, finale time is always good. I just hope that this doesn't become one of those things which we've been seeing in a lot of TV shows this season, is the penultimate episode being 1,000 times better than the actual finale.
Yeah, I hope that that's not the case. I really do, because I want to see a good close to this season. So,
and Legends has had good finales. Out of all the CW Arrowverse shows, Legends of Tomorrow always seems to have good cliffhangers that they leave us on. So I hope for a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they do, but looking forward to it, guys. That's all I got for now. Check out The Mandalore, where I'm about to release an episode talking all about the Gallery Season 2 finale. That's all about Luke Skywalker, and man, did we just get into a good conversation about that. So check that out. I'll be releasing that on Wednesday. That's all I got for you guys tonight. Let's have a good rest of your week, guys. This is The Flash signing off.
This is X-Force 11, so say we all.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network.